Alright, so here we are. We got a video about paper tuning and a bunch of other things. This is about the third time I've tried to film this video because about halfway through it I said something and it sparked a nerve in my head. I sparked an own nerve in my head and I went off on a rant. And I don't want it to be a rant, so I'm going to incorporate what I was saying into this video, but I'm going to try to do it and not be as aggressive as I was because it's a point that I think every hunter needs to remember. So please stay tuned, whether you're new hunter, old hunter, whether you're anti-hunter. If you're anti-hunter, definitely watch it so you can see that we're not all the same. And stay tuned. In a few minutes I'm going to get into that, and I want every hunter on the freaking planet to hear it. Okay? So, paper tuning. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to stand, I like to stand about 10 foot away. Most people I see stand about 5 to 10 foot away, so I like to stand the further distance, 10. I'll even paper tune at 12 feet sometimes because 12 is my favorite number and I'm freaking weird. But anywho, I bear shaft paper tune. Here's one. I want my arrow to come off that bow as straight as possible. It's going to be at its worst flight without any outside factors. It's going to be at its worst flight. It's going to be its worst point in flight. There you go, maybe. In that 15 to 20 foot range, give or take. It's not exact science. So, if you got a fletched arrow with a fixed bladed broadhead, I shoot fixed blade. So, that's what we're talking about here because that's what I shoot. If it comes off your bow and it wants to go sideways immediately because your center shot's not right, your spine's not right, you didn't 100% commit to the tuning, whatever tuning it is, whether it's walk pack, paper tune, bear shaft tune at a steady target, not bear shaft paper tune, or French tuning. If you didn't get it just right, but you're like, okay, that's good enough. Your arrow comes off, you got a fixed bladed broadhead, which is essentially fletchings on the other dadgum end. Your fixated broadhead's fighting your arrow shaft, your fletchings are fighting your arrow shaft, and it may go where you want it to go, but it won't do it every dadgum time. And I know this from over a decade of slinging arrows at animals, okay? So, communication is key. Whether you're at a company, your job, your family, your spouse, communication is key, and it's the same with your arrow. Okay, we're not talking about bow tuning necessarily right now. We're talking about arrow tuning. Yes, I do believe your bow should be in spec, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about arrows. Okay, so if your broadhead is wanting to send things one way, your shaft is underspined or overspined, and then your fletchings are going another way, by the time your arrow gets to the deer, your kinetic energy is lost, where you get this much penetration, or it goes like this when it hits. And it hasn't communicated. When I build an arrow, I want from broadhead point to nock in to communicate with each other, in sync. And then when they impact that deer, or hog, or elk, or fish, I just said that for craps and giggles, they're not going to communicate through that animal. Communicate, I think, is the best word for this. Communication from point end, to nock end, and when it makes contact with that animal, it communicates through that animal. Hopefully. Complete pass-through is always my goal. So, how I do this, I take my arrow. I know my arrow spine. If you don't know your arrow spine, that's a whole different ball game. Average Jack Archery, the Ranch Fairy, Brandon McDonald, there's lots of YouTube videos to figure out your correct arrow spine. I'm on the heavier side. I like to shoot a stiffer arrow because I'm into that whole high FOC, heavy arrow debate thing. I'm on the heavy arrow side. So, or if you want to call up Serious Archery and ask them their recommendations. But we're not going to get into that right now. So, you got your correct arrow spine, you got whatever point weight you want up front. I shoot a 100 grain insert, Ethics Archery insert with a 150 grain, I fluctuate type of broadhead, doesn't matter. But I have 250 grains in point weight, 150 grain pit tip, and 100 grain insert. Okay, I shoot a 250 spine arrow now. That's what I'm shooting right now. That's the setup I just designed and built. It's 250 spine with 250 on the point. Okay, so I know my point weight, I know my arrow spine. Now I'm going to go bear shaft. I hung up the Bear Anarchy HC, and I've got a new bear. It's a new to me bear. It's an older used one. I can't even remember the name of it right now. Forgive me, Bear Archery. I feel bad now, but it's in the case, and it'd take me a minute to drag out. So I threw my whisker biscuit on there. I shoot a whisker biscuit, get off my back, and I eyeballed it. Now I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to try to make sure it's perfect, and I do that bear shaft tuning. Okay, so the goal is a perfect hole. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a few inch tear one way or the other. Sometimes it can be half a sheet of paper. Been there, done that. Now, this is my paper tuning stand holding up a dry erase board. If you want to learn how to build one of these, I'll link that somewhere here. I'm not too great at that yet, but I'll link it somewhere. Cheap, I think it was like 30 bucks. Cheap and easy. I got a video how to build one. If your nock point is hitting high, you want to move your rest up. If your nock point is hitting low, you want to move your rest down. If your nock is hitting right, you want to move your rest left. If your nock is hitting left, you want to move your rest right. Okay? You want to go, if it's left and right, you want to go opposite, up and down, go the same direction. Now, tiny, 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 tiny movements, you guys. And I apologize for the shadows. I didn't have much of a choice with my lighting tonight. Tiny, tiny movements. What I like to do, like I said, I shoot a whisker biscuit. It doesn't have micro adjustments. I barely take that Allen wrench loose and I tap it with my Pine Ridge Archery Allen wrench set, and I'll barely tap it. Tiny, less is more, less is more, okay? Less is more. Now, I really just said that 3 times. Oh my gosh. Anywho, tiny adjustments, okay? If it's nock high, move your rest up. Nock down, nock low, move your rest down. Nock right, move your rest left. Ugh. If your nock is left, move your rest right. Okay, that's all there is to it. Now, let's say you're getting a nock left tear, and you move your rest right an insane amount, and it doesn't change anything. Let's say it changes a little bit, but it won't get better. Check your form. Bear shaft tuning is going to show flaws in your form like no other type of tuning will. If you got too much hand pressure, if your hand's cocked one way or the other, if you shoot a trigger, a finger release, and you've got pressure on your D-loop, if you got facial pressure, which is what I'm horrible at because my beard, facial pressure is something I really have to watch. But if your bow grip is off, it's going to show you, and you got to tweak it and figure it out. So, if I'm getting a left tear and I've moved my rest and I'm not confident in moving it anymore, and my spine is right. If your spine is not right, getting a bullet hole to meet for me is impossible. I can't do it. I can't get a bullet hole without my right spine, okay? I can move from a 250 spine and be getting a perfect bullet hole, and I'll throw a 300 spine on there. I'm not getting a bullet hole. Now, it's tiny, but it's still not a bullet hole. And if I can get a bullet hole with 250, why would I, shoot a 300 when I can't get a bullet hole with it? There's those of you out there that shoot 30-inch draws, 65 pounds, and you shoot a 500 spine gold tip arrow, and you can get a perfect bullet hole. More power to you. I can't do it. Say I got a left tear, my arrow spine's right, I know everything's right, but it just won't make a bullet hole, and I don't want to move my rest anymore because I can tell by looking at it that it's off. I'm going to purposely tweak my grip one way or the freaking other and see what happens. And I've done this before, and I barely tweaked it one way and it got worse, so I tweaked it back the other way and then a little bit more, and it was a bullet hole. So I realized that with the new grip on this bow, my hand was forming to my older, thinner grip, okay? So I started shooting with that right, and then I started moving the rest again, and I had to go way back the other way, and then I got a bullet hole in, I think, 4 shots and 3 tiny little adjustments. So check your form. If your spine is correct, and you're moving your rest and you're not getting a bullet hole eventually at some point, and you've moved your rest an insane amount, check your form. Check your form, check your form, check your form. Okay? That's the most important thing. If your bow is off, it will also be off. So that's things you got to take into consideration. So we're going to hope you've had your bow set up correctly, cam timing, cam lean, blah blah blah, everything's good, and we're going to assume you have the correct arrow spine, but you're not getting a perfect bullet hole. Check your form. I don't know how many times I can say it, but I don't know how many times I did. If you were counting, put in the comments below. So now let's get on to the most overlooked tuning thing in my career that I watch people overlook all the time, and that is nock tuning. Okay, Average Jack Archery has a video explaining nock tuning and the construction of a carbon arrow, and it's the best video on the internet about it. So I'll try to link that exact video in the description below, but it's the best. I can't do it justice compared to like he did, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to explain it to you in stupid form like me. If you're getting a tiny tear, no matter which direction, turn your nock a little bit. Doesn't matter clockwise, counterclockwise, just mark and know your arrow to your starting point, label up, whatever it is. Turn your arrow, turn your nock, turn your nock, turn your nock. And because if your nock is not lined up correctly with the seam of the arrow, weak side, strong side, stiffer side, lighter side, if it's not lined up, it's not going to get a bullet hole every single time. So once you get your bullet hole once, shoot that same bear shaft again and again and again and again. I shoot mine at least 12 times once I get a perfect bullet hole out of it. Again, 12, my favorite number. And if it is on and it never moves, okay, cool. But if it tweaks, I'm nock tuning. And then I shoot it however many more times it takes to get a bullet hole 12 times. Nock tune your arrows. Let me explain it to you this way. You got a big Carhartt jacket. You already got a bunch of clothes on. You go to zip it up and the zipper gets about right here, and you're a big broad-chested boy, okay? You're a big old boy up top. It's your zipper's trying to come apart right here. So when your zipper's getting right here, it's harder and harder. So you pull the two sides and you zip them up. It's essentially the same thing. Your nock is your zipper, and the carbon construction is the two halves. So when you get your nock right there and perfect, it's going to fly 1,000 times better. Nock tune your arrows. Again, I'm sorry for these shadows. I tried to stop it, and it was either a glare off the dry erase board where you couldn't see nothing, or a little bit of shadows. So we took the shadows. Now, let's go back to the communication. And here's my little rant thing. When your arrow is communicating from tip end to nock end, your form's on, you got a sharp broadhead, and you make a good shot, and it communicates off your string, through your rest, through the air, into the animal, puts all that energy it possibly can in, through, and out of the animal. Hopefully, that's the goal. Don't always get pass-throughs, but that's my goal. You just performed the most important thing in all of hunting, and that is an ethical kill. There is too much on YouTube right now about arrow spine, fixed blade, mechanical, high FOC, FOC don't matter, heavy arrow, light arrow, brand of bows, that we're forgetting something. Ethical kills. Okay, we got all these kids and all these adults that are new to hunting on YouTube that are looking to us for inspiration and to learn things, and we're too busy arguing back and forth, and we're too busy trying to push our own arrogance basically on somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, instead of ethical kill by any means necessary. Whatever, well, legal disclaimer, that's probably not a good saying. You want an ethical kill. That's the first and foremost, most important thing. For me, this process that I've just explained to you is how I get my ethical kills. So that's why I do it. That's why I stick to it. If you don't like this, don't do it. If you think this is stupid, don't do it. Give me a thumbs down. Say I'm an idiot in the comments. I don't care. As long as you are doing an ethical kill. If you are slinging arrows at 80 freaking yards and you're getting this much penetration, and on your show it shows you finding it in an hour, but in real life it's 2 days later, and the meat's basically gone, and that's not why we can't see the rear end of your animal in your trophy pig, because the coyotes already ate the ass end out of it. That's not ethical, homeboy, homegirl, not ethical. So there's anti-hunters out there that want to bash us all the time, and when they see your arrow go in a deer this big or this far, or they see you shoot one way back here in the hopefully catch liver, you're giving them nothing but ammunition. Nothing but ammunition. Okay, we're going to go back to tuning. I just had to get that out there. I think that's an important thing that everybody should note and listen to. For me, paper tuning, bare shaft, is how I get my ethical kills. It's how I get my arrow to communicate from one end to the other. So, again, just a real quick rundown. I know my arrow spine. If you want to see a video on how to figure out your arrow spine, hit the ranch fairy up. I know my arrow spine. I know my point weight up front, arrow length, everything like that. Hopefully my rest is center shot starting out, but I'm going to go out, I'm going to stand at about 10 feet, and I'm going to paper tune. And I'm going to move my rest according to whatever the arrow is doing. Bare shaft paper tune. Then when I get dang near a perfect bullet hole, or a perfect one, I'm still going to nock tune it. And see, make sure I get 12 consecutive perfect bullet holes bare shaft. Then I'm going to fletch it. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to nock, I'm going to broadhead tune. I don't do group tuning. I make sure my broadhead is going where I want it to go. That's all I do. Okay? Then my arrow is communicating from tip point to nock point, and I can go out and I can hang from a tree and I can make ethical kills. That's my process. That's my tuning rundown. I hope this helps somebody out there that's wanting to learn how to make ethical kills and that's tired of seeing arguments back and forth one way or the other. This isn't the only way. This may not even be the right way, but it works. It works for me. I've proved it time and time again. So find something that works for you and your setup and your ethical kills and do it that way. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and comment, subscribe, dislike, or comment that you hate me. I don't care. Follow us on Instagram at Texas_Empire24. There's all kinds of links for merchandise, hoodies, hats, other stuff over there if you want to help support the channel in another way. But again, I hope y'all enjoyed this. This was a fun video for me to make. And y'all stay tuned for more. I'll see y'all later.